Part 62. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 611. Hearing Lu Fei's words, Cai Jianren was filled with hatred. He regretted why he brought this idiot here. Of course, he understood what Duan Lei meant, but although the survivors didn't take it seriously. Anyway, people starve to death every day, so it doesn't matter if they send them a batch. However, since Hope Base needs it, it means that their side has bargaining chips, and they can bargain and get some benefits. But this idiot actually agreed to it directly for the sake of performance, but fortunately he said borrow instead of send, so there is still room for redemption. However, Duan Lei didn't care whether it was borrowed or sent. After hearing the situation in Tiandu City, Duan Lei knew very well that as long as those people were borrowed to Hope Base, it would not take a few days for Duan Lei to let them earn enough points to exchange for the status of temporary members of Hope Base. Once they exchanged for this status, Duan Lei would have countless excuses to make these people never return. Presumably, the survivors who came to Hope Base would not want to return to the outer city of Tiandu City again, right? Of course, there is no temporary member in the Hope Base now, but we can add one immediately. It is a good thing to increase the population of the base. Originally, Duan Lei asked them to send people to transport food so that the survivors could come to the Hope Base. There should be no comparison between people. Once there is comparison, their ideas will change. When those survivors were in Tiandu City, they all lived the same life. They were all half dead and waited for death every day. Because other people were like this, they could accept it in their hearts. Once they saw the survivors of the Hope Base, they would feel unfair. They were all human beings and did the same work. Why could they live so well by farming, while they had to eat those moldy food every day, and even this was not enough? The survivors of Tiandu City farmed in the outer city every day. When it was time to harvest, they could not leave a single grain of the food they grew. They had to hand it in. Then the inner city of Tiandu City would distribute the moldy and deteriorated food that had been stored before to them. This is the end of the world. For the weak without power, it is good to have something to eat, at least they are not starving to death. This is the advice given to them by the nobles while eating the rice they grew. Cai Jianren did not hide the situation, because Meng Fei saw the situation in the outer city. It was useless to hide it, and it might have the opposite effect. It would be better to say it directly. Anyway, Cai Jianren can use the excuse that Tiandu City is short of food and needs to ensure the combat effectiveness of the army. In fact, Cai Jianren also understood in his heart that he had been a superior for so many years, and he was quite clear about this aspect, although the survivors of the Hope Base seemed to be living well. But since the moment human society appeared, classes appeared, and everyone would be divided into different levels. True equality for all is impossible in human society. As long as there is rule, there will be exploitation and oppression, and dark things will appear. Cai Jianren absolutely does not believe that those survivors who farm can get the same treatment as the soldiers of the two legions or the people in this headquarters. At any time, the resources that a person can get are proportional to his strength. Relationship is also a kind of strength. Otherwise, why are those survivors who farm all evolvers, while all the soldiers are awakened? In fact, this is fairness. Some people dare to fight and get more resources, while some people covet comfort and get fewer resources. Rulers of any era will do this. Otherwise, why would there be generals and soldiers, civilians, and officials? The reason why the survivors of Hope Base live well is that the strength of Hope Base is too strong, so relatively speaking, it is much better than Tiandu City Base. If the situation of Hope Base is the same as that of Tiandu City, Cai Jianren dares to bet that the situation of Tiandu City will also appear in Hope Base. Now that Lu Fei has spoken, Cai Jianren naturally cannot refute it. However, after so many years in the officialdom, Cai Jianren's ability to make peace is of course quite strong. Ha ha ha. This Sunday. Luffy is right. In a hurry, Caigenren almost blurted out the name he had for Luffy. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and didn't shout it out, but Luffy's face was still a little ugly. Pretending not to see Luffy's face, Caigenren continued to talk to himself. Since the Hope Base is willing to help us with food, then our Tiandu city will certainly give back to the Hope Base, but... Speaking of this, Caigenren suddenly frowned, as if he suddenly thought of something that made him embarrassed, so he stopped, his face full of hesitation. Mr. Cai, you might as well say it directly, Duin Lei chuckled, he knew that this old fox should raise the price. Well, it's like this, Caigenren said with an embarrassed look, we say that we lack food, in fact, it's because there are too many people there, so, if most of them come to the Hope Base to help, then food is not very scarce for us. Duin Lei was stunned. Not only did this old fox not increase the price, but he took the initiative to say that he didn't need too much food. What's going on? No. You don't need too much food, that means you need other things. Duin Lei thought about it and suddenly understood what this old fox wanted. They must have known the strength of the survivors in the Hope Base very well. Now, almost all of them have reached the level of evolvers. As for the strength of Tiandu City, even if Caigenren didn't say it before, Duin Lei could guess it. Just look at the group of young people he brought. It's obvious that they belong to the second generation of rich people. However, there are a few enhancers, not to mention the survivors of low status. Duin Lei even has a feeling that even after the second upheaval, there may still be ordinary people who have not reached enhancers in the Tiandu City base. Enhancers are even rarer than giant pandas in the Hope Base. Except for some children who cannot use evolutionary potions due to physical reasons and are enhancers, even the survivors who farm have already become evolvers. This was the last time when Wang Feng was improving the strength of the soldiers of the two legions. Duin Lei directly collected blood samples from all members of the Hope Base, registered their names and gave them to Wang Feng. Wang Feng spent 2 full days to produce that huge number of evolution potions. Now, all those evolution potions have been exchanged by the survivors, and they have naturally advanced smoothly. Caigenren said that he didn't want food at this time, naturally because the overall strength of the Hope Base was very strong, so he guessed that they must have some unique methods to help people improve their strength. Duin Lei smiled slightly, but did not answer. Sometimes, if something is too easy to get, then it is not valuable. Besides, now Wang Feng is no longer in the Hope Base, and Duin Lei can't take out the evolution potion. Seeing Duin Lei not speaking, Caigenren understood that he could only speak himself. Although he took the initiative to propose it, it would put his side at a disadvantage in the subsequent bargaining, but he had no choice if others didn't mention it. He couldn't always play dumb. I just wandered around your base and found that the survivors of your base are all very powerful. The worst ones are all evolvers. I wonder, is there any method here? Caigenren sighed in his heart and finally asked this question. We are all human beings, especially the Devourer Legion is about to come. We should share the same hatred and enemies. If the strength of Tiandu City base is improved, it will naturally be a powerful ally of Hope Base. So, I hope you can tell us this method. We are very grateful. As for the survivors, as long as your base needs them, and at the same time, the strength of our group of old guys can be improved and have the ability to protect themselves, you can take as many as you want. Caigenren said while observing Duin Lei's expression. He found that Duin Lei didn't seem to be planning to say it. Thinking that this method might be their biggest secret, he simply gritted his teeth and went all out. He said that he would take as many as he wanted. Caigenren has already thought about it. As long as Hope Base can improve the strength of all the people in their inner city and become awakened, then he can send all the survivors in the outer city to Hope Base. Anyway, I have the strength to protect myself. If I throw all those people to the Hope base, the target of the Tiandu City base will be much smaller. When the Devourer arrives, they only need to hide in the underground fortress of Tiandu City. With the accumulated food, it is not a problem for those people to hide in there for 2 or 3 years. Let the Hope base fight the Devourer. It is best for them to lose both. When the time comes, I will come out to clean up the mess. I can save myself and get benefits. Why not? Hearing Cai Jianren's words, Du Enlai did not agree directly as Cai Jianren guessed. Instead, he frowned and shook his head, and said softly, "It's a bit difficult." Cai Jianren also frowned. He didn't increase the number of survivors little by little to bargain with Du Enlai in order to save time. Now he directly stated his bottom price, and Du Enlai still shook his head. What does this mean? Is it still not enough? But the Tiandu City base has nothing else to give them. There are a lot of arms, but they are their own life-saving things. Not to mention that I can't agree. Even if I agree, Lu Hongtao and other senior executives will definitely not agree. The promise made now is the limit of what Cai Jianren can do. What else does Du Enlai want? If what I just said is still not enough, then this negotiation will be broken. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 612. Seeing Cai Jianren's expression, Du Enlai knew that it was almost time, and hurriedly said, "Mr. Cai misunderstood. We hope that the base does have a potion that can directly improve people's strength." Hearing Du Enlai's words, all the members of the observation group present were shocked and stood up together. Then Cai Jianren realized that they were too excited, and hurriedly waved to everyone to sit down, and then looked at Du Enlai and said, "What's the difficulty?" Cai Jianren knew that since Du Enlai said so, he must have something to say later, which was nothing more than how precious and rare this potion was, and he took the opportunity to ask for a high price. Cai Jianren even thought that if Du Enlai still wanted to ask for a high price, he would have to take everyone back and let Lu Hongtao come in person, but at least he had to confirm whether the potion really existed. "One is this kind of potion. Our leader personally ordered that only members of the base can exchange it, and they need to use points." Du Enlai looked at Cai Jianren and said. Cai Jianren nodded. When he was wandering around the Hope base just now, he already knew what the points were. Now our leader is no longer in the Hope base, but has gone to the Western continent. I don't know when he will come back. Du Enlai continued. Cai Jianren continued to nod. Meng Fei, who had been to their place before, also said this, so it should be true. The last point, and the most important one, is that, this kind of potion can only be made by our leader, because he has a unique ability to purify the strengthening liquid in the zombie brain and synthesize this potion. Du Enlai shook his head helplessly. And this potion also requires a drop of blood from the user. In other words, to get this potion, one is that our leader comes back, and the other is, you need to collect the blood of the person who needs to use this potion on your side. Both are indispensable. Cai Jianren was stunned, and then he realized that Du Enlai was not deliberately threatening and wanted to take the opportunity to raise the price, but this kind of potion could only be made by that mysterious and powerful leader. After knowing this, Cai Jianren understood that his idea of using Lu Hongtao's identity to attract soldiers to their Tiandu City base in this Hope base was completely shattered. Apart from other things, at least those soldiers have reached their current strength because of the potion of the leader, so the loyalty of these soldiers can be imagined. If they can betray such a leader, how much loyalty can they have even if they are pulled over? Besides, there is nothing in Tiandu City that is attractive enough to attract these people. In this crisis-ridden end of the world, what else can be more precious than the potion made by the leader? At least Cai Jianren can't imagine it. Cai Jianren even knows that if the leader uses this potion to attract people from their place, Not to mention the survivors in the outer city, they will definitely all come over without a single one left. Even in the inner city, Caigenren dare not guarantee that a few people can be left. At least he knows that he will definitely give up the Tiandu city base. So now Caigenren's problem is, first, he can't do any more tricks in the Hope base and secretly win over people. Otherwise, if he is discovered, he will tear his face off and take the same means, and his base will be destroyed. The second is to send people back quickly to tell Lu Hongtao and others about the situation here, and let them decide what to do next. Now things are beyond his control. Just as Caigenren was thinking, Lu Fei's voice suddenly sounded again. What's so difficult about this? Caigenren looked back and saw that Lu Fei had stood up, looking in one direction with shining eyes and said, "We will send people back now to collect the blood of those who are going to use the potion, and bring all the survivors in the outer city here. They will start working immediately after they come here. They can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter if they are exhausted. Anyway, there are a lot of people. Since they are sent by us, they should be considered our people. The points they earn will be used to help us exchange potions. When all those who need to use potions have received the potions, as a reward, we will give them freedom and let them join the Hope base. After all, we protected them before. They can't just leave without any expression, right? As for your leader, he will come back eventually. Let's let the survivors come here to work first and accumulate points first, or you can directly calculate whether their work is enough to exchange for the potions we need. Anyway, we just need to use these people to exchange for the potions we need. Even if it's not enough for the time being, we can owe them first, right? Anyway, the people are here with you, you can use them at will, just think of us using these survivors to exchange for potions. And in this way, we don't need food, we just need potions. It just so happens that we need to improve our strength, those guys in the outer city need food, and you need people. Isn't this a solution to the problems of all three parties?" At this point, Lu Fei looked at Caigenren and asked, "Uncle Cai, what do you think of my suggestion? If it works, you can go back to find my grandfather. They and I will stay here waiting for you. Then you can quickly bring all the survivors from the outer city over, and we will, if you work as a supervisor here and don't work well, I will discipline them." Grass. After talking for a long time, this is the key point you want to say, right? Caigenren cursed secretly in his heart. When Lu Fei was talking just now, he kept staring at a girl walking out of the house without any cover-up. Anyone who sees this situation will know that this guy is attracted to that girl. But if you think about it carefully, what this idiot said is really good. It takes time to earn points anyway, and the devourer doesn't come so soon. Take advantage of this time to quickly kill those guys who just waste food every day. All sent to Hope Base. In this way, my previous idea may be realized, and judging from Duanlei's expression, he seems to be very tempted by this idiot's proposal. If the other party agrees, then he really might as well do it. Before, I had thought that maybe Tiandu City would need to pay for some ammunition for those potions, but now it seems that because of the interruption from that idiot, I might be able to save it. After listening to Lu Fei's suggestion, Duanlei lowered his head and thought for a while, then raised his head, looked at Caigenren and said, "Mr. Cai, due to limited time, I won't say more. If you also think this plan is feasible, then let's finalize it." Caigenren was overjoyed when he heard this and nodded quickly. "Of course. I have no objection. Lu Fei is Commander Liu's grandson. This grandson, his words should represent Commander Liu." Since Caigenren agreed to his suggestion, Lu Fei didn't care about this guy's words, but looked at Duanlei. After hearing what Caigenren said, Duanlei also stood up and stretched out his hand to Caigenren. "Okay. That's it. I wish our cooperation will be successful." I will send a team of soldiers to escort you and pick up the survivors. Come here, just collect blood samples, you can do it yourself. But you must remember that everyone's blood cannot be mixed. Otherwise, not only will the medicine be ineffective, but it may also be dangerous. This must be remembered. No problem. Don't worry. Caigenren nodded and said, he knew that although Doomsday sent people to protect himself, the real purpose was probably to prevent him from hiding some survivors, but Caigenren was not worried at all. Tiandu City base has never cared much about those survivors, just to let them help them grow food. Those survivors naturally have no good impression of the inner city. If given the chance, they might even destroy the inner city, so if they could send them all away, they would never leave anyone behind even if they didn't find someone to supervise them. As long as they can all become awakened, those in the inner city are enough. Even if they want cannon fodder, don't they still have those soldiers? Not enough. Caigenren still has some concerns. After all, the potion was just what Doomsday said and he has never seen it himself. If all this is false and he sends the survivors here, if they can't get the potion. With the strength of the Hope base, even if this situation really happened, they would not dare to fall out, and they could only suffer the loss of being dumb. But now Doomsday has made it very clear that the leader is not here, even if he wants to confirm, there is no way. Looking at Caigenren's expression, Doomsday smiled softly. He guessed Caigenren's concerns, so he said softly, "Don't worry. Mr. Cai, Evolution Potion and Awakening Potion are not big secrets in our Hope base. The points required for redemption of the two potions are written on the points redemption board over there. In addition, now that the intention to cooperate has been reached, you can also go around our base on your own and confirm it with others. I believe we can't silence tens of millions of people, right? In addition, if evolution potions and awakening potions did not exist, we would not be able to upgrade those farming survivors to the level of evolvers. I think you also know the chances of using strengthening fluid to increase their strength. Besides, it's just farming. The strengtheners are more than enough. There's no need to upgrade it that high. Besides, I think it's relatively safe inside the base, and they don't need to fight. So they just accumulated their own points and redeemed them for potions. We didn't expect our base in the Middle East to help them improve their strength. But if you really don't believe it, I can't help it. You can think about it again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 613. Well, it's okay, I think this is fine, but the specifics still need to be decided by our commander. After hearing Doomsday's words, Caigenren thought about it and didn't say it firmly, but pushed it to him. Anyway, it's late today, we'll return tomorrow, Mr. Doomsday. You should also find someone who can help you make the decision and go back with me, because there will be changes on our side, and it's a waste of time to run back and forth. Okay. That's no problem, Doomsday nodded, then called Luqiang over, and then introduced them to them and said. Tomorrow he will go to Tiandu City with you, I hope he can make the decision on all the matters of the base. Naturally, no one would have any objection to Doomsday's arrangement. Later, Doomsday asked Luqiang to arrange a place for Caigenren and others to stay. Of course, it was not in the Bishui community, but to find a residential area outside to settle them. In response, Doomsday explained that this was the order of their leader, that is, Wang Feng, and he did not dare to disobey. Anyway, Wang Feng was not there, and it was always right for him to do everything. Caigenren naturally had nothing to say, and obediently led his observation group to follow Luqiang. However, after Lu Fei walked out of the club, he looked around for a long time, but he didn't find the person he was looking for, so he had to leave. Lu Fei was looking for Lu Wanting, of course. When Lu Fei first came in, he saw Lu Wanting standing at the door chatting with Lu Qiang and Du Enlai. Although Shen Yisan was there at the time, Shen Yisan already had a child, not as young and beautiful as Lu Wanting. Later, Lu Wanting went out for a while because of something, and was seen by Lu Fei again. In this end of the world, it is quite difficult to see such a beautiful girl. Especially since their circle was originally full of smoke and miasma, girls change boyfriends. When Cai Jianren and the others left, Du Enlai did not follow them, but stayed to deal with his own affairs. Only Lu Qiang took these people to the accommodation arranged for them. On the way, Lu Fei couldn't help but go to Lu Qiang and ask about Lu Wanting indirectly. Lu Qiang was an honest man and didn't think there was anything wrong, so he told him some things about Lu Wanting. When he knew that Lu Wanting's strength was also that of an awakener, Lu Fei couldn't help but open his eyes wide and was inexplicably excited. Awakener. Lu Fei swore that this was the strongest girl he had met after the end of the world, especially Lu Wanting looked so pure. Who was he? The grandson of the highest leader of the Tiandu City base. Although the Tiandu City base was not as good as the Hope base, wasn't there a saying that it's better to be a chicken head than a phoenix tail? No matter what, his power must be greater than that of the so-called madman, right? Just by listening to this nickname, you know that this person is not very good, otherwise how could he have such an ugly nickname? Look at Cai Jianren, because of his power, who dares to call him a bitch? When Lu Qiang introduced Lu Wanting, out of habit, he said, "She is the wife of a madman." This is to indicate Lu Wanting's identity, but Lu Qiang did not explain who this madman is. In Lu Qiang's mind, they have talked with Du Enlai for so long, they should know this, because Du Enlai calls Wang Feng also madman, but what Lu Qiang didn't know was that Du Enlai had already decided in his heart before the conversation that he would let Wang Feng take the blame this time. So during this conversation, when Du Enlai talked about Wang Feng, he was not as casual as before, but was rare respectful. He didn't even say his name, but just used our leader instead of Wang Feng. Because in this way, Du Enlai could directly say some things that he didn't want to agree to or that were difficult to say directly. Because he didn't dare to disobey the leader's order, he naturally dealt with it, just like not letting them live in the Bishui garden. So even Cai Jianren, who had been listening beside him, didn't expect that the madman in Lu Qiang's mouth, the man with the beauty, was actually the leader of this Hope base. Cai Jianren certainly understood Lu Fei's meaning, but he didn't plan to stop him. He knew Lu Fei better. Although he was not good at other things, he was proficient in eating, drinking, whoring, and gambling. He also saw Lu Wanting. She looked like a young girl who was not experienced in the world. It was probably because of with his appearance, he got a civilian job here. As for the time he left, it was probably to find that madman. Since that madman didn't even have the qualifications to enter the club, he must be one of the two legions. So if Lu Fei could get Lu Wanting, it wouldn't anger the Hope base too much. But in this way, they could get some information from the Hope base through Lu Wanting, which was naturally a good thing for Tiandu City. Cai Jianren wanted to ask casually which legion this madman was from and what position he held, but since Lu Fei kept pestering Lu Qiang to ask questions, he couldn't interrupt. Thinking that he shouldn't be an important person anyway, he just let it go. Cai Jianren didn't expect that because of his laziness, he almost brought disaster to the Tiandu City base. The place Lu Qiang arranged for them was not far away, it was next to the Bishui garden, so they arrived there more than 10 minutes later. After Lu Qiang arranged for someone to prepare food for them, he left directly and said he would come to see them early tomorrow morning. After Lu Qiang left, Cai Jianren asked Lu Fei and learned that the guy really had the same idea as he thought, and fell in love with Lu Wanting. However, because he had already had the idea, he did not dissuade him, but only told him not to force it, not to make a big fuss, and not to use any despicable means. Because the girl was so beautiful, she might have an affair with the big shot in the headquarters of the Hope Base. If you pursued her openly, it would be fine. Because of face, people might not say anything. But if you used any shady means, it would be miserable, and even the estimated number could not save him. Lu Fei also knew how powerful it was. After all, in their circle, he was also well aware of the taboos of many upper-class people. He knew that even if this girl had an affair with someone inside, the guy was probably just greedy for her beauty and played around. He didn't care whether the boyfriend of the woman he was playing with was that lunatic or himself. Anyway, as long as he turned a blind eye at that time, he would not care about her affairs inside. This kind of thing is quite normal in their circle. If you can use your woman to get to the top, it means that at least your woman is very attractive, and you won't lose a piece of meat anyway. Besides, when it comes to using force, you have to dare to do it yourself. The other person is an awakened one. If you dare to use force, you will probably be beaten before you touch her. So even if Cai Jianren didn't say it, Lu Fei would not make this mistake. After dinner was delivered, as expected, there was a large pot of stewed meat. After feasting, everyone went to rest. Before resting, Lu Fei thought for a long time by himself, and finally pulled over one of his friends. The two of them whispered for a long time before going to bed. The next morning, without Lu Qiang coming to find them, all these people got up. When they found that there was water here for washing, everyone was surprised again. They remembered that they actually gave up this opportunity last night, and everyone went to bed after eating. The Tiandu city base is an inland city with no water sources around. Although there is a river in the city, it has become a stinking ditch before the end of the world, let alone after the end of the world. So the only way they use water is to dig wells, but groundwater is also quite limited, so in Kyoto City, water is even more precious than wine. After washing up, the refreshing observation group finally arrived at the gate of the Bishui Garden. As soon as they arrived at the gate, they met Lu Qiang, who was about to find them, so they didn't delay and prepared to go on the road directly. But before leaving, Cai Jianren told Lu Qiang that Lu Fei was going to take two people to stay here, because Lu Fei had said before that he would stay here and wait, and if the survivors from Tiandu City were disobedient, he would be the supervisor. At that time, Duan Lei's attention was on Cai Jianren, because he knew that this old fox was the one who made the decision among this group of people, so he didn't notice the look Lu Fei gave Lu Wanting. So Duan Lei thought that this guy stayed here to confirm whether the potion he mentioned existed, and he would know when the survivors were working, so that the base would have no excuse, such as the survivors not working, to withhold or not give them the potion. So before Lu Qiang came out, Duan Lei told him that if the other party wanted to leave people behind, no more than 5 people could stay, and they could not enter the Green Water Garden. Now that he knew that only 3 people would stay, of course he agreed and asked someone to arrange for these 3 people separately. Lu Qiang also told them that they could stay here, but they could not enter the Green Water Garden. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 614. Lu Qiang and Cai Jianren went to Tiandu City base, but nothing happened. When Cai Jianren told Lu Hongtao what they had discussed in front of Lu Qiang, Lu Hongtao heard that there were such magical things as evolution potions and awakening potions, and he immediately nodded and took a sip. Agreed to the decision discussed by Duan Lei and Cai Jianren before. The only thing he was worried about was that if something happened to the leader they were talking about on another continent, then he would lose all his money. But now, the people from the Hope base have arrived, and there is no time for him to think about it. Lu Qiang made it very clear that if they did not agree, then they would return and the deal would be cancelled. Of course, Lu Hongtao was reluctant to give up this opportunity to become stronger. With one last grit, he ordered all survivors in the outer city to leave and go to the Hope base. Anyway, he didn't care about the life and death of these people. If he could maintain the status quo, he would still keep a group of them to farm for himself. However, the food they stored now is enough for everyone in the inner city to eat for 2 days. 3 years. The arrival of the devourer will not take that long, so it is useless to hoard more food. Then these survivors are of no use to them, so Lu Hongtao simply survived as a survivor from the outer city. None of them were kept, and they were all given to the Hope Base. In this way, he can not only get rid of his own burdens, but also prove his sincerity to the Hope Base, which is equivalent to killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Now that the deal was reached, it was natural to start taking action, so Lu Qiang began to command the Hope warriors he brought to help the survivors transfer. What Lu Qiang brought were all warriors of hope. There were 5,000 of these warriors of hope. As for their strength, of course they were all awakened people. However, because there were too many survivors in Tiandu City, Lu Qiang and the others did not drive a vehicle this time. Because there is definitely not enough room to sit. Moreover, these guys are not from the Hope Base, so they are probably not that obedient. And if Lu Qiang leads the team, it is impossible for him to directly kill people to establish his authority like Lu Feng did, and the current situation is not suitable for doing so. There were only 5,000 Hope soldiers, but there were 40 million survivors in the outer city, so just mobilizing these people on the road took Lu Qiang and the others a day and a night. This is because they heard that they were going to other bases and saw that all the warriors who came were awakened. They felt that it should be better than here, so the survivors responded positively. But speaking of which, even if the warriors who come are all evolved, these survivors may choose to leave. The reason why they stay here is because it is too dangerous outside and they dare not go out. You know, at the beginning of the end of the world, there were more than 50 million people in the outer city, but now, only these 40 million people are left dead and missing, and the loss has exceeded 1/5. This is enough to make these survivors not have any hope for Tiandu City base. Even on the way to the Hope Base, because they didn't understand the situation of the Hope Base and found that there didn't seem to be any zombies roaming outside, there were actually a large number of survivors who secretly left halfway. Lu Qiang ignored these survivors who left at all. One was due to lack of manpower, and the other was unnecessary. The opportunity is given to you. If you don't believe it, why should I shamelessly drag you over? Just leave if you want. The survivors who finally arrived at Hope Base were only about 25 million, but even these people had exceeded the original population of Hope Base. Fortunately, during this period, Du Enlai and the others had been stepping up base construction, so once these survivors arrive, there will be enough room to house them. After breaking up these new arrivals and assigning them to various farms, Hope Base finally calmed down. Being able to restore stability so quickly is also thanks to the previous Tiandu City base, because these survivors lived in a very difficult situation there, so when they arrived at the Hope Base, those survivors heard about their future treatment at the Hope Base. After that, everyone thought they had arrived in heaven. Of course, they had no objections and immediately adapted themselves. Because it was made very clear when accepting them that not only those who left quietly before will not have the opportunity to join the Hope Base in the future, but if they perform poorly, they may also be expelled or sent back to Tiandu City base. Comparing the two sides, no one wanted to return to the Tiandu City base to wait for death, so these survivors had already begun to devote themselves to their work on the day they arrived. However, the original observation group did not come back with them. Even the Prince Sealings all stayed at the Tiandu City base. As for Lu Fei and his 2 friends, they have been very well behaved in the past 2 days. One is because their strength is low and this is not Tiandu City. If they are still as public as before, they may be beaten by the Hope Base. People were beaten 8 times a day. The other is that Lu Fei also wants to leave a good impression on the people here. No one here knows about his previous performance in Tiandu City. He has already inquired about it. Meng Fei and the others will not be able to come back in a short time. In this way, he is pretending to be a good boy now, and after he has deceived Lu Wanting, it will be too late to know his true identity. Even if Lu Wanting finds out and leaves him, she will have already eaten it. Yes, it doesn't matter. As for Cai-Jianren's instructions to ask Lu Wanting for information about the Hope Base, he didn't take it to heart. That was their business and had nothing to do with Lu Fei. If it was convenient, he could ask, but he wouldn't do anything that was difficult. Who is Lu Fei? Even if Cai-Jianren said he was a grandson, he was still the commander's grandson. He was mainly responsible for eating, drinking, and having fun. Don't come to him for other things. He doesn't take that salary. Lu Fei hasn't launched an offensive yet because his props haven't arrived yet. When the props arrive, he will capture Lu Wanting's heart in one fell swoop and let her crawl into his bed obediently. Of course, this is Lu Fei's own imagination based on his previous experience. At least that method is always successful when he uses it. Before the end of the world, he didn't know how many girls he had deceived into bed with this method. As for after the end of the world, is that method still necessary? If he saw someone he liked, he would just attack him. If he could give him a bite, it would be a mercy from young Master Lu. If it weren't for the Hope Base, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Wouldn't he just take him to his room? As for Lu Wanting's crazy boyfriend, Lu Fei had never asked about it carefully. He only heard that he seemed to be no longer in the Hope Base. In Lu Fei's opinion, that loser was not worth his attention. The identities of the two people were not at the same level at all. Just when Lu Fei was bored waiting for his props, an unexpected opportunity appeared. When he was strolling in the Hope Base with his two friends, he actually met Lu Wanting and Texas. Because Lu Fei stayed in the Hope Base as a supervisor, although he had never taken care of the survivors who came here from the Tiandu City base, he also liked to wander around outside. In fact, even if he wanted to take care of those survivors probably wouldn't bother him now, because they were in the Hope Base, not the Tiandu City base, and the survivors also had some understanding of the situation in the Hope Base. Of course, they knew that the new members were also protected by the Hope Base. They were thankful that they did not follow those who fled. You know, of the more than 40 million people, only 25 million arrived at the Hope Base, and 1/3 fled. It can be seen that the Tiandu City base has brought them a lot of psychological shadows. When they saw that it was safe outside, they were willing to take the risk of escaping even if they thought they might starve. Some of those who came to the Hope Base were tempted at first, but they gave up in the end. Fortunately, they gave up and saw the Hope Base, and realized that it was completely different from the previous Tiandu City base. Lu Fei and his friends were strolling around, and Lu Wanting and Texas were similar. Because Apollo now had the Elephant Legion, his status in the Guardian Legion rose rapidly, and of course he became an indispensable main force. After all, Texas is a woman, she doesn't like fighting, and her ability is not related to combat, so she didn't go outside with them, but stayed in the Hope Base. However, she didn't have anything to do, so she just accompanied Shen Yishan or Lu Wanting to help, or chat. Today, for some reason, Lu Wanting suddenly thought of Wang Feng, so she was a little upset and felt unable to concentrate, so she wanted to go out for a walk, and was seen by Texas, so Texas accompanied Lu Wanting to go out for a walk and relax. Maybe there is indeed telepathy between people in love, because at this time, Wang Feng was at the space wormhole, collecting energy blocks, and found that the energy blocks were flashing, and number 7 rushed to the core of the wormhole. Along the way, Lu Wanting always felt a little bored, but couldn't find the reason, so she had to follow Texas while chatting with him and walking around aimlessly. Anyway, this is the Hope Base. Before the Devourer army arrives, there will definitely be no danger. Therefore, Lu Wanting and the others were also very relaxed and did not pay attention to their surroundings at all. Therefore, they did not notice Lu Fei and the other two who appeared in front of them. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 615. Just when Lu Wanting and Taixi were walking through a jungle, they suddenly heard a painful groan from inside. The two of them felt a little strange. There was no farm or anything like that in their current location. How could there be a survivor here? Moreover, it sounded like he was injured. However, since they were inside the base, it must be that their people were in trouble. Lu Wanting and Taixi certainly would not pretend not to hear it, so they separated the bushes and searched for the sound. It was Lu Fei who made the groan. After seeing Lu Wanting and Taixi, this guy came up with an idea temporarily, so he immediately asked his two companions to hide aside, and then he looked at the direction where Lu Wanting and Taixi were walking, came to the jungle in advance, and then punched himself twice in the chest. After thinking that it might not be miserable enough, he hit his head against the tree again, broke his forehead, and then smeared the blood on his face with his hands, and then lay on the ground, pretending to groan. "Huh? It's that guy from the Tiandu city base," Lu Wanting said in surprise when she saw Lu Fei lying on the ground groaning. Although Lu Fei's face was covered in blood and he couldn't see clearly, his purple hair was unique in the Hope base, and Lu Wanting had seen him in the club, so she naturally had an impression of him. Now seeing this guy lying there groaning as if he had been attacked, she couldn't help but feel a little nervous, because before that, after Lu Fei and the other three stayed, Duan Lei had greeted the other people in the Hope base. He said that as long as these three people didn't enter the Bishui garden, they could walk around in the Hope base as they pleased, and they shouldn't provoke them at will. Of course, if they dared to cause trouble, they didn't need to save face for them, they should be beaten and imprisoned, but if they wanted to kill them, especially the purple-haired young man, they must greet him first. In this regard, Duan Lei explained that after all, they brought a large population to the Hope base, so try not to provoke them, and among these three guys, there is only one evolver, and this kind of strength can't make waves in the Hope base. In short, don't take the initiative to trouble them. Seeing this situation now, Lu Wanting thought that this guy was attacked by the people of the Hope base, so he was a little nervous. After all, Lu Wanting also knew that among the three guys who stayed in the Hope base, it seemed that the purple-haired guy was the leader, so those two people certainly wouldn't beat this guy like this, and this was in the Hope base, so the only ones who hurt this person were the members of their Hope base. It's impossible that this kid was idle and beat himself like this, right? Lu Wanting didn't expect that she accidentally guessed the truth, and she was not in the mood to think about it now. She quickly nodded to Taixi, indicating Taixi to help the boy up, and she observed the surroundings to see if she could find anything. Taixi came forward to help Lu Fei up. Lu Fei smelled the unique smell of a woman and couldn't help but feel intoxicated. He naturally thought that it was Lu Wanting who was helping him, so he pretended that he had no strength and leaned his whole body on Taixi. Just when Lu Fei closed his eyes and used his body to rub the soft place to intoxicate himself, Lu Wanting came in front of him. Because Lu Wanting looked around just now and didn't find anything, and since this guy could hum, he must be still awake, so she wanted to come over to ask him what was going on. Originally, Lu Wanting came over to help him by the way, but she saw this guy with blood on his face, closing his eyes, looking intoxicated as if he was enjoying something, and then Lu Wanting's eyes went to the place where Taixi and Lu Fei's bodies were in contact. Humph. Taixis, let him go. He should be fine. When Lu Wanting saw Lu Fei's back, leaning tightly against Taixis chest, she frowned. Although Lu Wanting looked young, she had lived in the apocalypse for so long, and she was responsible for the safety of a camp before. After arriving at the Hope base, she had come into contact with countless people. So if anyone thought she was a little girl who was easy to deceive, it would be a bit of trouble for themselves. Now seeing the expression on Lu Fei's face and his body deliberately pressed against Taixis, Lu Wanting knew that this guy was pretending. Even if Lu Wanting was still not sure whether he was acting or was really beaten, and found that it was a woman who helped him up, he took advantage of her on a whim. But at least Lu Wanting could confirm that the injuries on this guy were definitely not as serious as he showed. And a man who wanted to take advantage of a woman, how serious could his injuries be? Well, although Lu Wanting seems to be more mature, she still doesn't know enough about men. Generally speaking, as long as men are still awake and not injured, ahem. I won't say anything about it. Even if they are seriously injured, they will still have this thought. Hearing Lu Wanting's words, Taixi and Lu Fei were both stunned, and Lu Fei opened his eyes immediately, just in time to see Lu Wanting's pretty face with raised eyebrows. It is said that women are most beautiful when they are shy, tearful, angry, or shy. Why do I feel like this means any time? Now seeing Lu Wanting's slightly angry face, Lu Fei almost lost his soul. He couldn't help thinking again, looking at her beautiful face while rubbing her with his back, isn't that right? The person is in front of him, so who is behind him? Lu Fei understood instantly that it was not Lu Wanting who was supporting him, but the other woman who was walking with her. But after thinking about it, it seemed that the woman who was walking with her just now was also quite good. It was wrong, and he didn't suffer any loss anyway. It was a pity that his props were not there, otherwise, he would use them here, and maybe he could have a friendly battle with these two beauties in the woods. Taixis originally wanted to let go of Lu Fei, but as soon as she relaxed a little, Lu Fei's body slid down, so she wanted to pull him up again, but at this time she saw Lu Wanting's expression, so she was stunned. After all, Taixis was also a camp leader, so he immediately realized that the guy in front of him was taking advantage of him, so he not only let go immediately, but also threw Lu Fei to the ground with force. Ouch! Lu Fei screamed in pain. Taixis was also an awakener, especially this time he was angry and didn't show any mercy, so Lu Fei fell hard and felt that all the bones in his body were about to fall apart. Fortunately, this was in the grove and the ground was not very hard, otherwise, this would be enough for Lu Fei to lie in bed for a few days. After throwing Lu Fei down, Taixis directly activated her superpowers. Anyway, it was useless to keep it in the Hope base, and because of Wang Feng's warning that she could not use her superpowers on her own people at will, Taixis had not used her superpowers for a long time. Now that this guy is not one of them, naturally there is no such scruple. In fact, Cai Jianren and his team were lucky. When they were in the club, Taixis was not there, otherwise, this superpower would probably have been used on them long ago. After using her superpowers on Lu Fei's thoughts were of course known to Taixis. Even Lu Fei's plan to fight her and Lu Wanting in the woods was exposed to Taixis. Bang! Taixis raised her leg and kicked the dirty guy aside, breaking at least 2 of his ribs. Lu Fei fainted without even screaming. Then, Taixis raised her head and said to Lu Wanting angrily, "Ting ting. Let's go." Seeing Taixis suddenly angry, Lu Wanting guessed that Taixis had used her superpowers on this guy. As for the content, Lu Wanting could guess it without asking. She couldn't help but glance at Lu Fei with murderous intent in her eyes. But she hesitated for a while. One reason was that Duan Lei once said that when killing them, especially the purple-haired one, he must be told first. How could Lu Wanting speak up for such a thing? It would be better if she changed to Zhang Xiu. Another reason is that Lu Wanting is a girl after all. She is still quite resistant to killing people. Besides, she didn't suffer any loss, but Taixi did. But since she said she was leaving, she should leave. At most, she could go back and ask Duan Lei to drive him out. The 2 guys who had been peeking in the distance, thinking they could feast their eyes, didn't expect that Lu Fei, a master of flowers, was actually seen through by these 2 women, and one of them threw him down and kicked him, making him look like a dead dog. They were shocked and ran up to rescue Lu Fei. However, these 2 guys happened to be in the direction where Lu Wanting and Taixi were about to leave, and one of them even stopped the 2 women who were about to leave. "Hey! How can you hit people casually?" This guy is Xiaolin, and he is also the son of a high-ranking official in the Tiandu city base. He is usually domineering. So now, even though he saw Lu Fei lying on the ground like a dead dog after being beaten, he just thought that the two women didn't know their identities at all, so he stopped them. He is the son of our commander, responsible for supervision here, and has a cooperative relationship with your base. Now he was beaten by you for no reason. I think you need to give us an explanation. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 616. Looking at Xiaolin who was standing in front of her, Lu Wanting turned around and glanced at Tis. Tis nodded to Lu Wanting, which meant that this guy also knew what happened just now. Now Tehaizi's ability can be activated many times in a row if it is activated on people whose strength is far lower than his own, and it does not need to be too detailed. So when Xiaolin stopped the two of them, Tehaizi also checked it by the way. Find out what this guy thinks. Want an explanation? Are you sure? Lu Wanting looked at Xiaolin coldly and asked. Seemingly sensing Lu Wanting's killing intent, Xiaolin subconsciously took a step back, but immediately felt that it was a bit embarrassing to be like this in front of a woman. Even though this woman was much stronger than him, he was a woman after all. What do you want? Let me tell you, my uncle is. Xiaolin immediately took another step forward and said with an inward look. Poof, a fist directly smashed his head, interrupting half of what he said. Tehiz looked at Lu Wanting who had retracted her fist in surprise. Tehiz would not be surprised if Lu Wanting would kill this guy, but she actually used her fist to blow his head open. This, seems a bit, isn't it rude? We are girls. This kind of technique should have appeared on Lu Feng, and it would be called normal. Even if Zhang Xiu used it, no one would be too surprised, but, why has Lu Wanting turned into a violent woman now? Idiot. In the end of the world, it is still someone else's territory, but you still use this old-fashioned way to return your uncle, He is the king of heaven, I can't save you today. Lu Wanting wiped her hands stained with brains and blood on the dead Xiaolin's clothes, and said with disdain. Ting ting. Are you okay? Taizi asked worriedly, because Lu Wanting seemed to be very abnormal today. I'm fine. Sister Heath. Lu Wanting shook her head and said. I don't know why today, but I've been feeling agitated, as if something is going to happen to a lunatic. But after I vented my anger just now, I feel much better. Let's go back. Okay, Tethys nodded. Lu Wanting stood up and looked at the guy who was about to help Lu Fei up, but was frightened by the death of his companion. Do you want to ask me for an explanation? No 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 no. When this guy heard Lu Wanting's words, his head shook like a rattle. Just now Xiaolin went to ask for an explanation. This guy saw his fate clearly. How could he dare to learn from him now? Snort. Lu Wanting snorted coldly, then turned around and left the woods with Taxis. Seeing Lu Wanting and Taxis leaving, the only sober guy in the woods breathed a sigh of relief. After the end of the world began, these prince sealings were basically protected by others, and they have been living in the inner city since then, so they are not really experienced the end of the world at all. Although people often die in the Tiandu city base, one reason is that those people are not human beings in their eyes, and the other reason is that most of them die of starvation or illness. Like the way he died just now, especially at such a close distance, it was his companion who died, especially when the person who killed him was a beautiful woman who was so beautiful that people would want to commit crimes just by looking at him. This is simply subverting this guy's worldview. Wake up, this guy was trembling all over and tried to wake up Lu Fei. Now he only had one thought in his mind, which was to wake up Lu Fei quickly and leave this ghost place immediately, not just in the woods, but also in the woods. Hope Base. He wants to go back to his father immediately. This place is really too dangerous and not suitable for people like him to live. Although there is meat to eat here, it is obviously not worth it to risk having your head blown off just to eat meat. Lu Fei was originally thrown hard by Tessies, and with the subsequent kick, his internal organs were displaced, and even 2 or 3 ribs were broken. This would have been an ordinary person before the end of the world. He could kill Lu Fei with such a shake. Fortunately, although Lu Fei's strength is not very good, it has been strengthened after the apocalypse, so he was not killed by this guy. Instead, when he was shaken, the broken ribs intertwined, causing Lu Fei to wake up in pain. Stop, stop, stop. After Lu Fei woke up, he quickly shouted. Do you really want to kill me? Stop now, or I will be shaken to death by you. Are you awake? Let's leave here quickly and go back to Tiancheng Base. This guy looked at Lu Fei and said with a sad face. Hey? Xiaojun. Where is Xiaolin? Lu Fei looked to his left and right and found that this guy was here, so he asked quickly. He was worried that Xiaolin, when he was in a coma, had deceived Lu Wanting and the others with sweet words, and then went off to have a romantic relationship, right? Dead, the guy called Xiaojun almost burst into tears. He pointed at Xiaolin's body and said. Look. Right there, the girl, the beauty you fell in love with punched her head to pieces. Xiaojun originally wanted to talk about that girl, but he thought that Lu Wanting and the others might not have left yet, so he changed his mind temporarily. What? Xiaolin was killed. Lu Fei glared, then looked over and found Xiaolin's body lying not far from him. What happened? Tell me quickly. Let's go first. I'll tell you on the way. Xiaojun said quickly, he didn't want to stay here for a moment. Just say it when I tell you to. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Lu Fei cursed, and even habitually raised his arm to hit him, but as soon as he moved, he touched his wound, so he had to put his arm down again. Okay. I'll tell you. Xiaojun had no choice but to tell everything that happened after Lu Fei fell into a coma. After listening to this, Lu Fei lowered his head and thought for a while, then struggled to stand up, slowly walked to Xiaolin's body, looked down at Xiaolin's body, frowned and asked. Was it really done by Lu Wanting? Why would I lie to you? Xiaojun shouted. Xiaolin didn't touch him at all, just told her that she shouldn't hurt you for no reason, and wanted to ask for an explanation, but that beautiful woman didn't even say anything, just punched him, and then Xiaolin was like this. You mean, after I fainted, Lu Wanting didn't touch me, it was just the other woman who hit me. Lu Fei thought about it, and then confirmed. Yes, Xiaojun nodded. Then, Xiaojun said he wanted her to explain, but she didn't say anything, and just punched him like this. Lu Fei asked again. Yes, Xiaojun was about to cry again. Lu Wanting seemed to have said something before, but because of the shock, Xiaojun couldn't remember it. And why are you standing here asking this instead of leaving quickly? Want to solve the case? Didn't I tell you who killed the person? Why are you still pretending to be a detective? If the 2 women feel unsatisfied and come back, there will be 2 more people lying on the ground, no, 2 corpses. That woman hit me because she found out that I lied to them, but Lu Wanting didn't do anything to me. Lu Fei stood beside Xiaolin's body and muttered to himself. Then Xiaojun just stopped her, but she killed people directly. And she used such a cruel method, what on earth is this? Seeing Lu Fei dragging his seriously injured body and standing there to reason, Xiaojun intuitively felt that Lu Fei's brain must have been damaged just now. Ha 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 ha. My chance is here. Just when Xiaojun was about to urge Lu Fei to leave again, Lu Fei suddenly laughed up to the sky. Due to the injury to his internal organs, blood kept spraying out while he laughed, and his laughter was accompanied by blood. Seeing the scene in front of him, Xiao Jun widened his eyes. The way Lu Wanting killed people just now has made him realize the madness of this world, but now he feels that his understanding of this world just now is obviously not deep enough. Who can tell me what is going on? Who am I? Where the hell am I now? Is this guy really Lu Fei? Xiaojun's mind is now in a mess. He feels that he must be dreaming now, so he bites his tongue hard. After biting his tongue, Xiaojun finally confirmed that he was indeed dreaming, a dream that would still hurt even if he bit his tongue, and it was extremely real. Xiaojun now only hopes that he can wake up quickly. Even if he wakes up and finds that there are zombies around him, he will accept it. Even if he is torn to pieces by zombies, it is better than being scared crazy now. A beautiful woman punched a person's head, and then the guy who was beaten up and almost died before stood there, spurting blood and laughing wildly, and shouted that his chance has come. What opportunity? The opportunity to meet God. Xiaojun felt that even in the end of the world, such crazy things should not happen, so he firmly believed in his heart that this must be a dream. However, Xiaojun did not bite his tongue again, because he knew that there are 3 types of tongue biting. Biting lightly is called biting the tongue, biting hard is called suicide, and biting someone else's tongue is kissing. Lu Fei laughed for a while, probably thinking that if he continued to laugh, he would probably die from excessive blood loss, so he finally stopped his laughter. That Xiaojun heard was extremely terrifying, and looked at Xiaojun. Haha. Do you think I'm crazy? Lu Fei looked at Xiaojun and asked, and he still had a smile on his face, but this smile, in Xiaojun's eyes, was so weird. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 617. Seeing Xiaojun's frightened and helpless expression, Lu Fei actually explained to him seriously. I'm not crazy, and what I just said is true when the opportunity comes. Think about it, if between me and Xiaolin, who treats them more harshly, it must be me. But they didn't do anything to me. Instead, they killed Xiaolin. What does this mean? Xiaojun still looked at Lu Fei, but didn't say anything. How about you? Your internal organs have been displaced, at least 2 kilograms of blood spurted out, and several bones have been broken by kicks. What else do you want others to do to you? Like Kobayashi? Okay. They attacked me, but only that woman, not Lu Wanting. Seeing Xiaojun's eyes and looking down at himself, Lu Fei changed his words. This at least shows that she has a crush on me, so do you think my chance has come? At least, I have proven that she will not kill me, otherwise I would not be standing here now. In other words, I can pursue her boldly from now on, ha 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 ha. Xiaojun looked at Lu Fei speechless for a while. He only knew that he had better leave here immediately, leave the Hope base, and return to the Tiandu city base. Otherwise, he was not sure whether Lu Fei was crazy or not. If he stayed here any longer, he would definitely go crazy. Crazy. So, Xiaojun no longer paid attention to Lu Fei, turned around and ran towards the distance, as if there were hundreds of millions of corpses chasing him behind him. Looking at Xiaojun's back, Lu Fei smiled contemptuously and snorted coldly. Humph. Coward. Waste. Then he looked at Xiaolin's body and chuckled. Ha ha. Thank you, brother. Although you were of little use when you were alive, at least you proved one thing for me when you died, that is, they will not kill me. So speaking of it, your corpse is more valuable than your people. It still needs to be useful, okay. Go ahead, if you are destined to do so in the next life, you can still be my lackey. After saying that, he ignored Xiaolin's body and left it there. He walked straight out of the woods and walked towards his residence. He doesn't plan to go to the club to look for Lu Wanting right now. After all, something unpleasant happened just now, and his image is quite miserable now, which is not suitable for picking up girls, so he better go back and recuperate first. Although his injuries are relatively serious, fortunately it is the end of the world and his body has been strengthened. As long as he goes back to recuperate for 2 days, he will be almost fine. And by that time, he will start his own actions and prepare to conquer. That it's time for Lu Wanting, who has a good impression of him. After Lu Wanting and Texas returned to the club, they originally planned to talk to Duan Lei about what had just happened, but they found that Duan Lei was very busy for some reason, so they looked at each other and simply went back to their rooms. Anyway, that guy is so seriously injured now that he probably won't show up in a day or two. Let's wait until Duan Lei is free. Duan Lei is indeed too busy during this period, and Lu Wanting is too embarrassed to use such a small one. Things to distract him. So, in the next 2 days, the Hope Base seemed calm, and everyone was busy with their own affairs. The guards of Heilong Bridge informed Lu Qiang of Xiajun's departure, but Lu Qiang didn't care. Anyway, he is not one of our own, maybe he has something to do when he goes back, so he ignores this matter. As for Duan Lei, he is still busy every day. In the past 2 days, Lu Fei suddenly became very honest. He stayed at his residence every day and quietly waited for his things to be delivered. At the same time, Wang Feng was sitting on the back of the shark, heading towards the Hope Base. On this day, the props that Lu Fei had been waiting for a long time were finally delivered, along with several members of the Prince Sealings. At this time, Lu Fei's injury was almost healed, and he couldn't help but be overjoyed to see these people. Since Duan Lei had greeted them before, the guards at Black Dragon Bridge did not embarrass the Prince Sealings. They just checked the things they brought in and then let them in. However, these guards looked at these Prince Sealings. The looks in several people's eyes seemed a little strange. The one who made those guards look like this was naturally Lu Fei's pickup tool. In fact, there was nothing, just a lot of flowers and a lot of fireworks. The flowers are naturally roses, and the outermost petals of these roses actually have Lu Wanting's name. This was made by these Prince Sealings when they went back, which is why it took them so long to return. From this point of view, the Tiandu City base is indeed better than the Hope base, because no one is planting the flowers that can be found in the Hope base, namely wildflowers or cauliflower, which can only be seen but not eaten. What? You said rose petals are edible? And there are beautiful women who make a living by eating flower petals and don't eat other foods? Well, please send that beauty to the end of the world. I dare to bet with my integrity that she will definitely change her living habits. In the inner city of Tiandu City, this kind of thing that symbolizes romance and love, but is useless in the end of the world, is still planted and cultivated by some people to express their elegance to the ladies or young nobles in the inner city. Romantic feelings. After all, they are superior people and they cannot lose their identity at any time. Isn't there a saying to describe them? Even if they are given a glass of foot-washing water when they are about to die of thirst, they still have to drink it to taste like red wine. It's just that the person who said this must not have really reached the point of being thirsty to death. Moreover, if they were starved for a week and then given a bouquet of roses and a hard steamed bun, I wonder if they would choose the bouquet of roses to prove their romance. The flowers are specially made and have the names of beautiful women, so the fireworks cannot be ordinary, otherwise they will not be of the same level as the flowers and will insult their noble status. So these fireworks are also specially made. After being placed in a specific direction and set off in a specific order, they can achieve the most romantic effect, especially at the end, 2 relatively blurred avatars, the names of 2 people, and the last big heart will appear in the night sky. This whole set of things are the props they played with to perfection before the end of the world. Although they have hardly used them since entering the end of the world, since they are all geniuses in this area, they will not make mistakes due to unfamiliarity. Since all the props have arrived, Lu Fei can't wait to start his own action. This time, 3 Prince Sealings came. In fact, there were more than these people. However, After arriving at the Black Dragon Bridge, those who were responsible for protecting them and several prince sealings who sneaked over to watch the fun were stopped by the guards. Because the Hope Base said that they could only stay here for 5 people at most, they met Xiajun on the way here. However, Xiajun might feel that the other prince sealings were unreliable because of Lu Fei, so he didn't say anything and hurriedly walked past them and returned to the Tiandu city base. So they naturally didn't know that Xiaolin had died. Therefore, when they entered the Black Dragon Bridge, they only entered 3 people, plus Lu Fei and Xiaolin. There were exactly 5, which did not exceed the regulations of the Hope Base. When they asked Xiaolin, Lu Fei vaguely said that he was going to do something else. The 3 prince sealings naturally understood and thought that it must be related to Lu Fei's career of picking up girls, so they didn't ask more questions. Led by Lu Fei, the 4 of them came to the gate of the Bishui Garden. Lu Fei looked around and confirmed that the angle at the club was the best when setting off the fireworks. He then waved his hand and asked the 3 to start setting up. Although the warrior of hope at the gate of the headquarters felt strange, he also knew Lu Fei. Anyway, this guy didn't want to enter the Bishui Garden, so he left it to him. So he just stared at them vigilantly and didn't take any action. Of course, not taking any action does not include reporting this matter to Duan Lei. Duan Lei, who was busy, was slightly stunned when he heard that this guy was placing flowers and fireworks at the door. Then he immediately put this matter behind his mind and continued to be busy with his own things. After a full hour of arrangement, everything was finally arranged. Lu Fei looked at everything in front of him with satisfaction and nodded heavily. Now everything is ready, only the dark is waiting. As soon as it got dark, he would set off fireworks to attract Lu wanting out. Then when she saw the heart-shaped roses with her name placed in the candlelight, Lu Fei didn't believe that she would not be tempted. Maybe tonight, he could freely ride on her attractive body. Thinking of the proud part, Lu Fei couldn't help but burst into laughter at the door. The other 3 prince sealings, of course, knew what Lu Fei was thinking, so they imagined the scene and laughed with Lu Fei. The guard looked at this group of idiots inexplicably, not knowing what was wrong with these guys, but he understood in his heart why the military advisors said not to let this guy in, because it is said that mental illness can be contagious. Thinking of this, the guard looked at Lu Fei and confirmed that the distance between him and him was far enough, and then he was relieved. At this time, there was still about an hour before dark, so Lu Fei would not leave to prevent his arrangement from being disrupted. So he and the other 3 prince sealings protected the flowers, candles and fireworks in 4 directions, quietly waiting for dark. At this time, Lu Hongtao was leading dozens of Tiandu City's high-level officials to rush here in a hurry, because Xiajun went back and told them what happened that day. After listening to Xiajun's crying, Lu Hongtao immediately felt something was wrong, so he hurriedly brought people here. At this time, Wang Feng had just reunited with Qiu Jian and his whales, and headed towards the Hope Base together. The coast of Jianguan Town had already appeared in their sight. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 618. The sky was getting dark, and Lu Hongtao and his party were finally reaching Heilong Bridge. Because they were afraid of misunderstandings and knew that even if they brought all the people, they would not be able to fight with others and hope that the base would come, so they only had these dozens of people in the sky. The city's top officials who spoke effectively came together. In fact, except for Lu Hongtao, the other people came here, one because of Lu Hongtao's order, and the other because they wanted to come to the Hope Base to have a look and open their eyes. The only one who was really worried was Lu Hongtao. After hearing what Xiao Jun said, and thinking of the prince sealings who had set out before, Lu Hongtao was so sweaty that he came down, but he was chasing after him slowly. He even saw the Black Dragon Bridge, and he failed to catch up with those prince sealings. Obviously, Lu Fei had received what he wanted. Along the way, Lu Hongtao kept complaining to Cai Jianren. Sci-Fi is still young, so it's okay to be ignorant. Why can't even you see the key point? The girl you are talking about must have someone in the headquarters, and someone who can get such an outstanding girl must have a high status. Even if we want to find out their inside information, we should at least wait until we get those potions, right? Now this kid may have caused trouble. If he really offends the senior management over there and makes us unable to get the medicine, I'll see how you explain it to everyone. Caijianren has a look of shit on his face now, and he is extremely depressed. It is obviously your grandson who caused the trouble. Why should I explain to everyone? That grandson was not born to me. What the hell are you talking about? Xiao Fei is young, forget it if he is not sensible. Damn, you are still young in your 20s. Still ignorant? Do you have to be 80 to be considered an adult? Even your words are like farts to him. Will my words be effective? If you didn't let him come at first, didn't he come too? I can't control my grandson, so why are I relying on others? But now Caijianren has no way to refute. The first level of the official university is overwhelming, and it is his own unlucky fate to become the leader of this observation group. He can only grit his teeth and swallow this dead rat. Arriving at the Black Dragon Bridge, Lu Hongtao quickly shouted to the guards on the other side, "Brother, please tell your military advisor Duan Lei and tell him that Lu Hongtao, the commander-in-chief of Tiandu City Base, needs to discuss urgent matters with him." When the guard on the opposite side heard that he was from Tiandu City Base, he immediately picked up the walkie-talkie and contacted Duan Lei. After all, the large number of tens of millions of survivors who came a few days ago were said to have been transferred from the Tiandu City Base, so the guard did not dare to neglect them at all. Duan Lei couldn't help but feel a little strange when he heard that Lu Hongtao was bringing people to visit, but when he heard that there were only a few dozen people, he directly asked the guards to go to the Black Dragon Bridge, let them come, and sent someone to take them to the headquarters. After receiving the order, of course the guard released them directly and sent a person to take them directly to the Clear Water Garden. At this time, Wang Feng and the others had just said goodbye to Xiaosong and headed towards the Clear Water Garden. Coincidentally, when they arrived at the entrance of Ganlin County, Wang Feng and the others happened to meet Lu Hongtao. Lu Hongtao saw Wang Feng and did not pay too much attention. Although Wang Feng and the others were driving the Hurricane, they wanted the base to have the Hurricane. Lu Hongtao already known. The original deputy captain, Meng Fei, drove a Hurricane when he arrived at their base, not to mention that this was the headquarters of the Hope Base. And since Wang Feng and others on the Hurricane were all quite young, and none of them looked older than Meng Fei, Lu Hongtao simply regarded them as the patrol team of the Hope Base. However, the Hope warrior who led them to Bishui Garden knew Wang Feng. After seeing Wang Feng, he quickly stood at attention and shouted, "Reporting to Brother Feng, I hope that Li's Haiqiang, the guard of the Black Dragon Bridge, will report to you. Please give instructions." "Okay. Stop having so many rules. What are you going to do? Are they?" Wang Feng waved his hand carelessly and asked casually. "Report to Brother Feng that they are from Tiandu City Base. The military advisor asked me to take them to the headquarters." Hope warrior Li's Haiqiang stood at attention again and said, "From Tiandu City." Wang Feng frowned, then shook his head and said, "Forget it, since it was Lazy Eye who said it, I don't care, you go ahead, let's go first." Wang Feng waved to Li's Haiqiang, and then the Hurricane started and left first. "Yes." Li's Haiqiang stood at attention and saluted in the direction of the Hurricane. He waited until the Hurricane was far away, then lowered his arms, turned to Lu Hongtao and others and said, "Okay. Let's go too." "Little brother, who is that person?" "It's the one you call Brother Feng." Lu Hongtao asked softly. Whether it was the look on the hopeful soldier's face when he saw Wang Feng, the respectful tone when talking to him, or even Li's Haiqiang's solemn military salute when Wang Feng left, Lu Hongtao understood that the guy called Brother Feng is not simple. Especially as an old soldier, he could see Lu Hongtao's heartfelt respect for Wang Feng from Lu Hongtao's eyes. Lu Hongtao was even sure that if that young-looking guy gave an order to this Li Zhiqiang, even if it was a suicide attack, this Li Zhiqiang would execute it without hesitation. Brother Feng is a pretty scary guy who can let his soldiers do this. You mean Brother Feng? Li Zhiqiang looked at the hurricane going away and said. He is our head, and hopefully the head of everyone in the base. This base belongs to him, and so do we. Lu Hongtao and others looked at each other, and you saw the horror in each other's eyes. You didn't expect that the leader of the Hope base was such a young and shameless guy. When Cai Jianren saw Duan Lei before, he felt that this military advisor was too young. He thought he was a nephew or a relative of the leader here and had risen to power through connections. Looking at it now, it turns out that even this leader is so young. Just being young doesn't matter, the key is that he can actually make his soldiers worship him so much, which is simply too much. Some old generals may not be able to make all the soldiers in their troops have such feelings for themselves. How did such a young guy do it? As a soldier, Lu Hongtao had a good understanding of the character of soldiers and knew that those potions alone would never achieve such an effect. Moreover, Cai Jianren said about the formation of the Hope Base's Legion. This Hope Legion is just a second-line legion. Even the soldiers of the second-line legion can reach this level. What about the soldiers of the first-line legion? Only now did Lu Hongtao understand why Cai Jianren told himself that relying on his status to win over the soldiers here would not work after he came back. Anyone who can win over such soldiers will probably be killed directly by them as soon as they show their intention to win over. Lu Hongtao shook his head, and then prepared to follow Li Zhiqiang to continue to Bishui community, but he saw Cai Jianren staring blankly at the place where the hurricane disappeared, with a look of horror on his face. Lu Hongtao couldn't help but feel furious. He was his soldier and he could just ignore it for a long time. Why do you think so? Hey! Lao Cai? He's leaving. Stepping forward and patting Cai Jianren on the shoulder, Lu Hongtao did not hide his dissatisfaction and said with anger. No. No. Cai Jianren woke up from a dream, then looked at Lu Hongtao and stammered. That person's name is, Feng. What's wrong with the wind? Does it sound good? Lu Hongtao suppressed his anger. If there wasn't a Hope warrior in front of him and didn't want to be laughed at, Lu Hongtao would have beaten the Cai Jianren to pieces first. Don't worry about people's names, hurry up. Speaking of which, Lu Hongtao also reacted suddenly, Feng, madman. Lu Hongtao quickly took a few steps forward, caught up with Li Zhiqiang and asked. Little brother. Do everyone in your base call your leader Brother Feng? Do the people who are older than him also call him that? Of course not. Only people from the Guardian Legion and Hope Legion are qualified to call him Brother Feng. Li Zhiqiang looked proud. As for ordinary survivors, they basically have no chance to talk to Brother Feng. Even for me, this is the first time. Brother Feng is often away from the base. He only comes back occasionally. He often doesn't stay for a few days before going out again. Little brother. Lu Hongtao carefully interrupted Li Zhiqiang. Then, what are his other names? Lu Hongtao didn't care how long that Feng stayed here, or whether Li Zhiqiang had spoken to him. He just wanted to find out whether that lunatic and Feng were the same person. Oh. Only then did Li Zhiqiang realize that he had talked too much, and he said with some embarrassment. Some people call him Tou, but that's basically what the Guardian Legion calls him. As for Lu Tou and the military advisor, those who hang out with Brother Feng all day long, they call Brother Feng, crazy. Buzz. The moment they heard the word madman, Lu Hongtao, Cai Jianren, and some people around them who knew the ins and outs of the whole thing all felt their eyes darken and their heads buzzing. I'm a fool. What is this thing called? After working on it for a long time, Did my grandson come here and prepare to steal the leader's wife? After being stunned for a moment, Lu Hongtao suddenly became anxious, ran forward suddenly, and said to Li Haiqiang, "Brother, could you please hurry up? We are in an emergency and must rush to Bishui Garden immediately. I have something to talk to the person we left here with you." Although Li Haiqiang didn't know why Lu Hongtao and the others suddenly became so anxious, he still nodded. Just when he was about to speed up and run forward, bang! A big firework exploded in the dark sky, looking extremely enchanting and dazzling. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 619. With the rise of the first firework, Lu Fei's courtship officially kicked off. The fireworks covered a large area and were high in the sky, so as the first firework sounded, it lit up the night sky and attracted the attention of all the survivors of the Hope Base. Lu Hongtao and his friends saw it, but compared with other members of the Hope Base, Lu Hongtao's face was quite ugly at this time. Wang Feng also saw the fireworks in the sky. He was just a little strange, but he didn't think much about it. Fireworks have no shelf life. Maybe that bored guy found them outside and brought them back to set them off at night to have some fun for the Hope Base. So the fireworks did not slow down their speed towards the Bishui Garden, and behind them, Lu Hongtao and his friends quickly caught up. Before, they didn't know the location of the Bishui community, and after all, it was in someone else's territory, so they followed the Hope Warriors in an orderly manner. Now they knew Wang Feng's identity, and also knew who was setting off the fireworks and what they were going to do. In a hurry, they didn't care about so much and ran directly to the place where the fireworks rose. Lu Hongtao was afraid that if he went too late, his grandson would be torn into pieces by that madman. Just by hearing his name, you know that this guy must be hard to mess with. Who has ever seen an honest man being called a madman? Even if there is a wind in his name. When Wang Feng came to the gate of the Hope Base, Lu Fei was standing at the gate of the Hope Base, reciting love poems. Because of the loudspeaker, his voice could be heard clearly even in the continuous sound of fireworks. The most amazing thing is that when he recited the love poem, he could actually match the sound of the fireworks. It sounded like the fireworks were embellishments between his voice pauses. When I saw your face, bang! My heart began to beat violently, bang bang bang. You, bang bang, have entered my heart, bang bang bang. Lu Fei was able to cooperate so well because he had practiced it countless times. Before the end of the world, he had used this method at least hundreds of times to pursue the girls he liked. Of course, the love poem is always the same, and the process of the fireworks is also the same. Except for the girl's name at the end of the love poem and the girl's image at the end of the fireworks, there is no difference. This is of course because the words used to describe girls in love poems can be used without error. For example, willow leaf curved eyebrows, cherry-like mouth, snow-like skin. These words are basically universal when used on girls. Even if there are slight differences, who would really care in this romantic environment? What? You said that some girls have triangular eyes, sparse eyebrows, and dark skin? Pa. Can that kind of girl make young Master Lu Fei spend so much money to pursue her? There was such a big commotion outside the gate of Bishui Garden. Duan Lei and the others naturally knew about it. They also walked out of the club and looked up at the gorgeous fireworks in the sky. Lu Wanting, Zhang Xiu, Taixi, Shen Yisan, Ximen Lianying and other women looked at the sky with surprise. It must be said that Lu Fei's courtship method is absolutely lethal to girls. Even if these girls already have their loved ones, they can't help but look at the fireworks with longing in their eyes when they hear the love poems and look up at the fireworks. Seeing the intoxicated expressions on their faces, you know that they also like the scene in front of them very much. They don't even have the mind to think about who prepared this fireworks and this love poem for whom. Since the fireworks were set off at the entrance of Bishui Garden, and there were a lot of flowers and candles at the entrance, Wang Feng did not directly ruin the scene in front of him when he arrived at the entrance. He just parked the hurricane aside and watched the fireworks quietly. Seeing this romantic scene, Wang Feng could not help but have a lot of thoughts. He thought that Lu Wanting had been with him for so long, and because he had almost never been free, the two of them had been together for a long time. So seriously speaking, he had very little time to accompany Lu Wanting, let alone create such a romantic scene for her. Thinking of this, Wang Feng could not help but feel guilty, because if he were to do all this, it would actually be easy, of course, except for the love poem that matched the frequency of the fireworks. But he was thinking about how to protect the Hope Base, and he didn't even think about this aspect. If he had known earlier, he should have spent a day on rest to arrange such a scene for Lu Wanting, even if it was just a simple wedding for her. But now the time for the Devourer army to arrive has been shortened to more than 40 days. In the days ahead, he will definitely be even busier, and it is very likely that he will not be able to spare even a day. Capture the mutant beast, unlock the seal, save number 7, and convert all the apocalypse points in the apocalypse into potions to enhance the strength of all the survivors in the Hope Base. All of this must be completed before these 40 days, no. It should be completed in about 30 days, because he also has to find a way to rescue number 7 who is trapped in the core of the wormhole. If everything goes well and the Devourer can be eliminated in the end, then he still has a chance to save Lu Wanting. If he fails, then mankind will be extinct, and he will always owe Lu Wanting. During the time watching the fireworks, Wang Feng's mood can be said to be ups and downs, and he was worried about gains and losses. He even thought of various experiences that had happened since the end of the world because of Lu Wanting. Since entering the end of the world, Wang Feng has almost no time to calm down and think about things. Unexpectedly, in this noisy environment, it has become a rare opportunity for Wang Feng to relax. The sound of fireworks and Lu Fei's recitation of love poems gradually faded away. Wang Feng was completely immersed in his own world. Memories, visions, crises, worries, joy, hopes. Various emotions came one after another, making Wang Feng seem to have entered another space alone. He was integrated with this space, but also seemed quite far away. The fireworks, finally ignited to the last moment, and the recitation of love poems was also coming to an end. At this time, Lu Fei suddenly shouted loudly. "Lu Wanting! I love you. I want to be your lifelong guardian angel." Bang 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 bang. The dense sonic boom sounded, and in conjunction with Lu Fei's words, the fireworks in the sky also formed two figures cuddling together. The man was of course Lu Fei, and the woman, although a little blurry, could still be seen, that was Lu Wanting. Lu Wanting was stunned. She didn't expect that the scene was created by someone for her. However, she didn't feel happy at all. Instead, her eyebrows were raised and she was furious. The tenderness and sweetness that she had just immersed in this romantic environment disappeared immediately. Because she knew that this was definitely not done by Wang Feng. Not only was the voice wrong, but Wang Feng didn't have the leisure to do these boring things. Although as a girl, Lu Wanting also hoped that Wang Feng could give her some small surprises from time to time, but she knew the ideals in Wang Feng's heart and the burden on his shoulders. So she has been helping Wang Feng silently and never complained that he didn't have time to accompany her. If Wang Feng really did this, she would feel disappointed. Because she has already determined that Wang Feng is her man. What this man is doing is saving the world, saving mankind, and protecting herself. Such a man is her Lu Wanting's man. If he eats and waits for death every day, what's the use of being with her every day? The reason why women like lovers and feel that their husbands are not as considerate and understanding as lovers is that lovers only need to accompany you for a while husbands need to accompany you for a lifetime. Your husband is responsible for your whole life. He has to use his shoulders to support your sky. Love only needs sweet words and vows, while life needs too much. The difference between a husband and a lover is actually very simple. One wants to support you. One wants to sleep with you. One wants to accompany you for a lifetime, and the other only needs to accompany you for one night. When you can go to bed, your lover needs you, and when you can't get out of bed, you need your husband. Although Lu Wanting is young, she has seen this clearly. What she wants is a real man like Wang Feng. Although this man may never come back every time he goes out, she still stays here silently, waiting for him. Now, someone combined her image with another man, which made Lu Wanting furious. She also thought about who this guy was, so she rushed forward. Lu Wanting swore that as long as she saw that guy, she would never give him any chance to speak. She would blow his head off, just like that idiot. However, just as Lu Wanting's body moved forward, a shocking roar sounded, and then a familiar figure rose into the sky like a flash of lightning. Bang! The figure rushed directly into the image of the two people snuggling together in the sky, and swung a ferocious longbow in his hand suddenly. A huge energy burst out from him and instantly destroyed the image. The image destroyed by the energy wave did not go out, but was rushed to the periphery by the energy, mixed with the love heart, forming a dazzling halo, and the figure actually stood proudly in the wind, just hovering in the halo. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 620. The bright halo of light illuminated the figure's surroundings like daylight. Everyone below could clearly see the face of the figure. It was Wang Feng who had just returned. Wang Feng looked at the longbow in his hand, and then habitually carried it behind his back. Under the cover of the fireworks, his eyes shone like stars. Then, everyone present heard his words. A voice full of pride and determination. Wang Feng. I am Tingting's patron saint, and I am also the patron saint of Hope Base. In the halo of fireworks, and under the star-studded night sky behind him, Wang Feng, who was slightly thin, seemed to be descending from the gods at this moment, arrogant and arrogant. A thin and aloof figure stood in the void with a longbow on his back. This familiar image could not help but evoke the memories of everyone in the Hope Base at the Black Dragon Bridge. At that time, it was also this figure who shot a stunning arrow, and then led them to eliminate the terrifying zombie tide, established a Hope Base, and led them step by step to where they are today. Now, this figure finally appeared again and returned to them. The survivors who had participated in the Battle of Black Dragon Bridge, regardless of age or sex, were now full members of the Hope Base. Naturally, they also live in the Bishui Garden. Looking at this familiar figure and hearing his unchanging promise, everyone seems to have returned to the Black Dragon Bridge again. The moment they were awakened by this young man to the humanity in their hearts. Tears, I don't know when, filled everyone's eyes, and then rolled down. Even the core members such as Duan Lei, Lu Qiang, and Shen Yishan also burst into tears. Yet, I don't know who started it first, letting out a roar that seemed to come from the bottom of my heart, but I couldn't tell what the emotion was. Then, all the soldiers stationed in the Blue Water Garden began to roar. The originally strict military discipline disappeared at this moment. Even those core personnel who were military commanders and usually synonymous with majesty raised their arms and roared hysterically. Even those who should have been hiding the secret whistles in the dark also jumped out one after another. The roar spread quickly and gradually spread to the entire Hope Base. All members of the Hope Base, regardless of distance, young or old, all raised their arms and shouted. They don't know what they are shouting or why they are shouting. They only know that only in this way can they vent their emotions and make themselves feel their existence. At this moment, All the eyes in the Hope base were focused on the man hanging high in the air with a long bow on his back, who was known as their patron saint. At this moment, his thin figure, it looked so majestic. Lu Wanting looked at the man in the sky with blurred eyes. Yes, this man is hers. This is her Lu Wanting's man. Whenever he appears, he always makes people feel at ease and uplifted. Whether it is in Green Island Camp, or at Black Dragon Bridge, or now, his appearance always brings hope to people. Without him, the Hope base is just a base. With him, it is the Hope base. This sudden change made Lu Fei, who was full of confidence, look stunned. He had no idea what happened. The script shouldn't be like this. Shouldn't it be that after she finished, Lu Wanting walked out of the door with tears in her eyes and a moved face, then threw herself into her arms, and then found a place to have sex with her? Was it always like this before? Where did this guy come from? He actually interrupted his confession directly, and it was at the most important moment. Do you think it's great that you can fly? Etc. Fly. Only then did Lu Fei realize, how could a person fly? He rubbed his eyes vigorously and looked at the man in the air carefully. Yes, he was just humming flying. He was just hanging in the air without any support. What is it if it wasn't flying? Lu Fei was completely confused. When did people start to fly? My name is Lu Fei, but I don't even have this ability. But before Lu Fei could be shocked, he was grabbed by someone. When he turned around, he saw that it was his grandfather, Lu Hongtao. Lu Hongtao pulled Lu Fei aside with force and shouted in a low voice. Get out of here. Go back to Tiandu City base. Later, Lu Hongtao didn't allow Lu Fei to tell the difference at all, so he called two people over and dragged Lu Fei away from here. At this time, the roar was still continuing, so no one paid attention to them. The only people they saw were those who followed Lu Hongtao to the Hope base and prepared to rescue Lu Fei. Because they are guests from afar, they don't have the feeling in the hearts of those at the Hope base, and naturally they won't join in the fun and yell with them. And many of these people even think that as managers and superiors, how is it appropriate to yell like this? It's simply demeaning. I don't know how long it took, but the roar finally subsided, but all the survivors in the Hope base were looking at the figure standing proudly in the sky with bright eyes. I'm back. Wang Feng's voice sounded. Starting from tomorrow, the Hope base will be fully prepared for war, and all members of the Hope base will receive their own awakening potions. I tell you, there will be powerful enemies coming to attack our Hope base soon, trying to destroy it, and we will be used as food by them. I only ask you one question now. Do you dare? Follow me and fight them to the end. Fight to the end. Fight to the end. Fight to the end. What Wang Feng got was the same voice roaring from different throats. Okay. Then, everyone, go back and rest now, stop tomorrow's work, and wait for the order from the headquarters. Wang Feng shouted loudly. Yes. Everyone agreed in unison again, but no one was willing to leave. They all looked up at Wang Feng's figure hanging in the air. You know, flying people are a magic show that can only be seen before the end of the world. In the end of the world, where can you see magic? Crazy guy. Why don't you come down and talk? It's really tiring to look up at you talking like this. Duan Lei stepped forward, looked up at Wang Feng and said. But by the way, when did you learn to fly? What? Fly? Wang Feng was stunned, then looked down, as if he realized that he had been standing in the air all this time. Bang. Ouch. The first was the sound Wang Feng made after he found himself flying in the air. The second bang, was the sound of Wang Feng falling directly from the air and hitting the ground. As for the third sound, that was Wang Feng's scream. The survivors around looked at Wang Feng, who fell to the ground and was covered in dust, and then looked up again, looking at each other in bewilderment. Isn't this a bit too fast? He was so majestic just now, but now, he suddenly became like this. The contrast is also. Wang Feng groaned and climbed up from the ground. Fortunately, he was strong and his body was quite strong, so although he was knocked unconscious by the fall, he was not injured. What are you looking at? Haven't you ever fallen before? Disperse quickly, or you will not be allowed to eat tomorrow if you continue to watch. Wang Feng looked at the guys around him who were trying to hold back their smiles and looked at him, and he could not help but get angry and roared loudly. Ha 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 ha. Hearing Wang Feng's words, the people around him burst into laughter, making Wang Feng feel embarrassed. But fortunately, despite the laughter, these people still dispersed in groups of 3 or 2. The fall just now instantly destroyed the godlike image that Wang Feng had created before, but everyone felt even happier in their hearts. Because the image just now, although it was like a god of war, majestic, but there was always a feeling of being high above, which made people feel very distant. And the current Wang Feng is the one they remember as being brave and courageous in battle, daring to charge and fight, daring to kill and die, fearless, but usually laughing and scolding, making a mess with them. Before the crowd dispersed, a figure rushed out from the crowd, threw himself into Wang Feng's arms like a swallow flying into the forest, and hugged Wang Feng tightly. This was of course Lu Wanting. Du Enlai and the others also gathered around, smiling at Wang Feng and Lu Wanting. Wang Feng certainly didn't feel embarrassed, but hugged Lu Wanting openly. When the crowd dispersed, there were only 2 groups of people left at the door. One group was Du Enlai and other core members of the Hope Base and Hope Warriors. The other group was naturally Lu Hongtao and others from the Tiandu City base. Why are they here? Wang Feng looked at Lu Hongtao and others who were standing aside and looking at him and asked. That's what happened. Du Enlai stepped forward and briefly told the agreement reached between the Hope Base and the Tiandu City base. Oh. So that's it? Wang Feng nodded after listening, then looked at Lu Hongtao and said. The one who set off the fireworks just now was your man, right? Lu Hongtao's heart sank, secretly glad that he sent someone to send his grandson away. It seems that this leader really has no intention of revealing this matter. But think about it, who can just let it go when someone comes to his house to rob his woman? Yes. That's my grandson. I didn't discipline him strictly, and I'm sorry to make you laugh. What do you mean by not disciplining him strictly? Wang Feng scolded unceremoniously. I think you have never disciplined him. I tell you, you must give me a satisfactory explanation for what happened just now, otherwise, you won't get a bottle of medicine. After that, Wang Feng directly hugged Lu Wanting in his arms and walked into the Bishui garden, leaving Lu Hongtao with a bitter face.